Welcome back. This is NFL Fanduel Week 9 plays. I'll be going over position by position what my favorite plays are and what my least favorite plays are. And along the way, I'll be putting together a GPP lineup. Um, but I'll also go over some of my favorite cash play games, cash plays as well. So I'll have a little something for everybody here. We'll start off at quarterback. Deshaun Watson, you can see by far and away the highest salary on this slate today. He's over 1,000 more than uh, the next quarterbacks listed. So for me, obviously, he's been on a hot streak lately. He's playing against Indianapolis. They're one of the worst five defenses in terms of fantasy points giving up to opposing quarterbacks. So obviously, it's a great matchup here. That's why his salary is so high. Um, to me, more of a cash game play than a GPP play. I'm not a big fan of playing the top salary guy in GPPs for quarterbacks. Usually, you can save a little money and then spend up other places. So for me, I'm going to be passing on Deshaun Watson in GPPs, but by all means, go ahead and fire him up in cash games. Russell Wilson. If you're gonna play Russell Wilson in GPPs, I'd stack him up with Jimmy Graham because Washington, their defense, as you can see here, go to wide receiver points. They're bottom five in fantasy points given up to opposing offenses. But if you look at the tight end points, they're fourth. They give up the fourth most points to opposing tight ends. So if you do play him, I'd put Jimmy Graham in there with him for GPPs. For cash, I mean, you can just put him by himself if you want, but I won't have him in too many lineups this week. I'd prefer the next guy, Drew Brees, and actually he's going to be the main guy I'm going to be putting in my GPP lineups this week. Is I want to go with the New Orleans Saints stack. I'll tell you who I'm stacking him with later as I get to the running back and the wide receiver positions, but I just think the Saints are the way to go this week. They're at home. Tampa Bay's defense, obviously not very good. I'll show you here. In terms of QB points, they've given up the seventh most points allowed against opposing quarterbacks. So, I mean, I think he's just a solid play all around. And, yeah, he's definitely my favorite GPP play on this slate. But I've got the next guy here, Dak Prescott, might be my favorite cash game play. As you know, Ezekiel Elliott, he's suspended this week. So, they're going to have to pass the ball. And the Chiefs suck at defending the pass. So, I have him in a lot of cash lineups this week. The reason why, honestly, the main reason I don't have in my GPP lineups is I just have no idea who to stack him with because, let's look here. So they're eighth and give up the eighth most to opposing quarterbacks. So I mean, obviously that means he's a solid play, but they give up the most points to wide receivers. So that means a Cowboys wide receiver should put up a ton of points this week, but you just don't know which one because Des Bryant is questionable and he hasn't done great this year. Dak Prescott hasn't looked his way a lot, so I don't know if he's in line for a big game or not. And then after Des Bryant, you're stuck with deciding between Bryce Butler and Terrence Williams and Cole Beasley, and I just don't know which one of those guys I'd want to pick because they can all bust so easily, and only one of those three guys would probably be in line for a big week. So it's just to me that's just too tough to tell which one of those guys would have the big week there. So for me, he's just more of a cash game guy that I would just play on his own. And then we just get into some more mid-tier guys. I mean, Carson Wentz, he's been great lately against Denver's defense. I don't know. I wouldn't put him in the GPP, but I don't know. Maybe give him a shot in 1 or 2 year lineups. But then after that, not a lot of great plays. I mean, I don't really see anybody on here I love. I don't know. You can go Tyrod maybe against the Jets here on Thursday night, but see how he's been doing lately. So I mean, he's had 2 good games his last 2 games against Oakland and Tampa Bay. He's put up 16 and 20 points. So I mean, he's a viable option, but nobody I'm really in love with here in the 7,000, 8,000 range. I guess the one guy I would go down to, if I wanted a cheap option for GPPs, is Jacoby Brissett. He's going against Houston, and you saw what Seattle's offense did to Houston last week. They put up a good amount of points on him on Houston's defense. And Brissett, he's put up some decent. I mean, look, he's had a 27-point outing, a 19-point outing, and then last week he put up about 17 points. I mean, he can get the job done if you're going with GPPs here. And just to show you, Houston's defense give up the 4th most to opposing quarterbacks. So, I mean, I would give Brissett a look in some of your GPPs for this week. All right, so we go to running backs. Ezekiel Elliott suspended, obviously, so I don't know. You'd have to keep checking for updates between Alfred Morris and Darren McFadden. As of right now, I'm staying away from that situation. Kareem Hunt at 9,000 still to me overpriced a little bit. He started off the year real well, but he's just been declining a lot lately, and I'd stay away. I mean, he's still the number 1 back there, obviously, but to me, the price just needs to come down a little bit before I start playing him again. And then Todd Gurley, solid option, but to me, the play here this week is Leonard Fournette, 8,600. I mean, Cincinnati's run defense, they're fine, so it's not like they're weak or anything, but just look at the numbers Fournette's just put up this season. It's just been, really, he should be the top price guy in this slate, but he's not. So I think you take advantage of that and play him whether it's a cash or GPP game this week. So I'm going to add him to my lineup. And I think he's healthy back from his injury, so I wouldn't really worry about that because they had a bye last week, so I think he's fine. Now, Mark Ingram is an interesting option. Been doing very well lately, but he had the 2 fumbles in the 4th quarter last week, so I don't know if he'll be punished in any sort of way in terms of maybe give up some carries to Kamara, but I don't know. Maybe he won't run as well because he's so worried about the fumbles. So to me, the better option for my New Orleans Saints stack this week is Alvin Kamara. And he's really just been great since they've traded Adrian Peterson and freed up some room in the backfield. He's put up double digits in each of the last 4 weeks. I'll show you here. 20 and a half, 10, 13, 15. So, I mean, he's a safe play, but he's also got upside at the same time. He actually put up double digits 5 weeks in a row. So, yeah, I think he's just a solid play. He could go for 20 points easily. He could catch a receiving touchdown from Drew Brees, which is why I like the stack. And I actually do have one more Saints player that I'm going to put in this stack, which I'll get to when I get to the wide receivers. But as for any other possible plays, could go Adrian Peterson against the 49ers. Look at the 49ers run defense. It's just atrocious. They've by far and away given up the most fantasy points to opposing running backs this season. So definitely Peterson can be an option no matter what type of game you're playing in. As for anybody else, I'm not going to go with the Jai in his first game with the Eagles. I just think it's a little risky. Lamar Miller, maybe. I mean, he's questionable, but Indy's run defense as you probably saw in that the last screen, they're not very good either. Definitely steer clear of C.J. Anderson. I do not like Denver's offense right now. They're going against one of the best run defenses in the league in Philly. And yeah, he's just been working by committee now with Booker and Jamal Charles, so I would avoid C.J. Anderson at all costs. That's about all I got for the running backs here. Joe Mixon should get his carries eventually. I'd still be steering away from him against Jacksonville's tough defense. Bilal Powell to me is not a good play today for the Thursday night games. Once again, a timeshare. I just do not like those situations. Yeah, nobody really. And then you got Alfred and Darren McFadden. So I mean, if you have information before the Sunday games on who's going to be getting the majority of the touches, then by all means fire one of them up. But if you're not sure, I would just kind of avoid it. And then one last play, which I think is a pretty good cheap value option for running back, is Orleans Darkwa. He's only 5,400. I mean, he's pretty much going to be the main back now for the Giants, I think. And their running game's not that good, but I mean, hey, he's a cheap option. If you need to save some money, this is who I would go with. Although, I don't think he's great or anything, but he's worth a look. All right, now back to wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, like Deshaun Watson, another high-priced guy on the Texans. So, I mean, if you're looking for the stack there, it's going to be pretty much impossible. And then if you want to put Will Fuller in there, I mean, his price is heavily jumped too. So, I mean, they should all do good against the Colts, but I don't know if it's really possible if you're playing a GPP to make a good lineup and try to stack them. It's just not the route I would go. And then my two least favorite top wide receivers this week are AJ Green and Doug Baldwin. And you'll see the reason why. I mean, normally AJ Green's one of my favorite plays. I play him almost every week because Andy Dalton just loves throwing his way. But let's sort by wide receiver points given up for each defense. And you'll see Jacksonville, who AJ Green is going against, they're the bottom. They give up the least amount of points to wide receivers each week. And then Washington's right there in the bottom 5. So I would avoid both guys if possible this week. Julio Jones, he's very underpriced this week. So cash games, I'd say go ahead. GPPs, I mean, he's fine too. I'm just not going to put him in this one just because, once again, I'm going to be going with my Saints stack. So that guy that I'm going to be going with to complete that stack is Michael Thomas, 7,600. Here, I'll add him right now. And let's just take a look back at that wide receiver column. Tampa Bay's given up the 4th most points to wide receivers, so I think Michael Thomas is in for a big week. And you can see, I mean, he's a good cash game option this week too. I mean, he's put up over 11 fantasy points in each of his 5 out of his last 6 weeks. He sees a good amount of targets each game. He catches a good amount of those targets each game. So I think he's a very good play. Then we'll go over the last couple wide receivers I'm putting in this lineup. None of these guys really catch my eye. I wouldn't go with Kelvin Benjamin this week just because, I mean, I just don't think he's at any time to get used to the system. Actually, I don't even know if he's, well, I'm sure he's playing today, but 50-50. Yeah, I would avoid him if you're playing the Thursday slate. I don't know. A lot of these guys, it's just like, they're really hard to tell who's going to go off. It's kind of just trying to find needle in a haystack, I guess, with all these guys in this price range. It's definitely tough. Maybe you want to go Ty with if you're gonna go the Jacoby Brissett route and save at quarterback. Maybe you can go T.Y. Hilton. That'd be a fine option, but to me, I'm gonna be going with Devin Funchess since Kelvin Benjamin got traded. I mean, Funchess is really the only main target Cam Newton is used to throwing to. Because you think about it, Kelvin's gone, Greg Olson's injured. I mean, really, the guys that are going to be opposite of Funchess now are guys like Russell Shepard, Curtis Samuel. They don't have as much familiarity with Cam Newton. So yeah, I'd go Funchess. I think he's going to get the looks in the red zone as well, being the big body there now. And then I'm going to be paying up at tight end, so I've got to save one more time at wide receiver. So I will be going down to Sterling Shepard at 5,900. Of course, I don't love the Giants' offense, but I have to save some money here. I mean, he's the clear number one option in their passing offense now that Odell's gone, Brandon Marshall's gone. I mean, he's really the only target Eli has, except for Evan Ingram, and he's a tight end. So definitely the number one wide receiver option there, and I mean, I think he's at a good price at 5,900. So I'd fire him up if you need somebody under 6,000. Like, and Ted Ginn would be a fine option too. It's just that I don't want to put four guys in the same stack. I just feel like that's a little too much. One other receiver that's decent this week, maybe give him a look, is Devontae Parker, because Jay Cutler's coming back and he developed a pretty decent chemistry with him earlier in the season. If you take a look before his injury, I mean, he was getting 9, 10, 8 targets a game, putting up a decent amount of points each game, so I think he might be worth a look. I just decided to go with Funchess over him just because, I mean, the Dolphins kind of suck, so I don't know where they're going to be at this week, so yeah, I mentioned I was going to be spending up at tight end, which is why I had to save at some of the receiver positions. So the reason I was saving the money is because I want Zach Ertz at tight end this week. A lot of people are going to see the price tag. A lot of people are going to see the defense and the Denver Broncos. They're going to be scared away. But really, against tight ends, Denver's not too scary to go against. If you look, they're actually third in terms of fantasy points given up to opposing tight ends. So I think he's a good play this week. I think he might not be too highly owned just because people are probably going to be going down to Travis Kelce against Dallas, but I actually think Zach Ertz might have the better matchup just because the wide receivers are going to be covered. So Carson Wentz is probably going to just keep looking at Zach Ertz. And if you look at Zach Ertz, good cash game or GPP option. He's put up double-digit points every single week this season, which is crazy for a tight end. And normally at this position, I would be picking on the Giants' defense against tight ends because they just absolutely suck at covering tight ends. But they are playing the Rams. They're playing the Rams, and the Rams just don't have a tight end. So, unfortunately, you can't attack them there at this position this week. And then like I said earlier, Jimmy Graham, as long as he's playing, I would put him in the GPP if you were planning on playing Russell Wilson, but I don't know. I'd make sure to keep updated on this because it says he didn't practice today, or yesterday. So I'd have to keep an eye on that if I were gonna play Jimmy Graham. And as for other tight ends, Doyle's been playing well lately, but I think Houston's pretty good against defending tight ends, so I don't know if he's a great GPP option. He's going to be popular in terms of his ownership percentage. And then Cameron Brate's just been solid all year. So, I mean, if you want to put him in, save a little money from the top two guys, by all means. Look at that. Since the Minnesota game, he's been very solid. And that's going to about wrap it up now. Kickers and defense, I mean, kicker, I just usually go some minimum priced guy, and if the teams project to score a lot of points, that's basically where I go. You guys can kind of figure that one out on your own, because I mean it's kind of a crapshoot anyway. And then defense, with this lineup, you'll probably be left with about 4,700, 4,800. So I don't know. You just pick your favorite defense in that range. Maybe go with the Niners against where are they at? The Niners against Drew Stanton. I don't know how well Drew Stanton's going to do, but 49ers defense isn't great, but maybe take advantage of the backup quarterback in Arizona. So anyway, that's the video. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.